Order.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you bow for invocation. Lord, we just are ever so thankful that as a body we can get together and try to make good decisions for this community. We just ask your wisdom and your leadership in the things we do and the decisions we make. And ask that you would be with our city and help us to prosper, for we ask these things in Jesus' name. All right. Do we need to make any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir. We've added item H5, a resolution declaring eminent domain for public purposes.
Okay, with that addition, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion,
Second?
second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to item D, citizens' comments. If anybody would like to come before the council and address the council, come up and state your name and purpose for speaking with us.
I'm Christian Zimmerman from Troop 776, and you recently helped me to do my Eagle project, and I just wanted to extend an invitation your way for my Eagle Scout. I'm having a
Court of Honor?
ceremony for it, yes, and it is this Sunday at 3:00 p.m. at the Baptist Church.
No, the Methodist.
Nothing?
Yes, the Methodist Church. I always get that mixed up. So thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
for your hard work.
You can do that.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to address the council? If not, we'll close citizens' comments. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any corrections of the minutes?
Pardon me, we had item E1, which was the appointment of the library board member.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess I need to adjust my glasses. I'll move
I
on to
think the
E1.
slide might have slipped.
All right, we have an appointment to the Goddard Public Library.
Sorry about this, folks.
All right, we'll have our librarian come forward and tell us about it.
Oh, yay. So Tegan Ullman, there's her bio. She works for the schools. She's been in the town for a long time. Her mom is the vice principal at Goddard High School. And she says she has one son who's going to start kindergarten at Amelia Earhart. So her family's very invested in this town, and she comes to the library and utilizes us a lot. She's in one of our book club members, and she was excited to know there was an opening and that she could join. So she's a little younger than some of our other members, which helps us spread that out a little bit so we get a wider view of what the community wants in different age groups. So we're excited to have her.
All right, do we need to make any motions or anything, or?
Just a motion and a second to appoint.
Okay, make a motion to appoint?
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Got your new person. And now we'll move on to item F. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes and the accounts payable? If so, I will take a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion with a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is a resolution that essentially finalizes the sale for the temporary notes that'll finance Phase 1, as well as the primary mains for Trails End addition. It first occurred, the first action was the request back in 2021 to participate. The council followed its standing practice of oversizing for future growth, so that way we're not laying or having to relay parallel lines as the city grows. But specifically to what you're considering now, the plat was approved on May 2nd. On May 16th, you adopted the resolutions for the improvements that will be under the Special Assessment Statute, KSA 12-6A01. On June 6th, you adopted Resolution 2215 that authorized the offering of the sale of the temporary notes. And again, that is for this area here at 23rd and 215th Street West. That's the north half of the addition, the south half of the addition, with 23rd being on the south or the bottom of that image. The proposed resolution authorizes and directs the sale and issuance and delivery. And essentially what you're doing with this is you're directing the mayor, the clerk, and staff to complete the following documents here, everything from the transcript certificate to the disclosure agreement. Again, these will be rolled and converted into special assessments, just like we've done for every residential subdivision in Goddard. The specifics of this is an issuance of $7,085,000 in principal with an interest rate of 4.0 yielding 2.61%. So the average price is 103.16. Term's 3 years. It matures on December 1st, 2025. We have payments scheduled for June 1st and December 1st, with the final payment being December 1st, 2025. The proposed documents have been reviewed by our city attorney and authored by our bond attorney, Kevin Cowan and Gilmore and Bell. It's recommended that you approve the resolution authorizing and directing the sale of this issuance. And again, this is the third of three that you've taken with respect to this issuance. Are there any questions?
Not really. It's like pretty normal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery, Series 2022-02.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Need resolution 22-17.
Member Mayor and City Council, this is item H.2, the road closure for Mrs. Cole's Tropical Snow. So on June 10th, 2022, Mrs. Cole's Tropical Snow submitted a road closure application for a customer appreciation event to be held on July 24th, 2022. The event will be from 1 to 8 p.m. We'll close a small section of West Santa Fe from Main Street to the alley. This is for a customer appreciation event, and all temporary closures are approved by City Council based on road closure policy adopted in 2014. Partial closure, this is just a review. West Santa Fe, Main Street to alley. Event will be on July 24th, time from 1 to 8. This event will comply with road closure policy adopted in 2014. City staff is reviewing and preparing a draft amendment to the road closure policy to refine and simplify the process for future road closures. And this is a map outlining it. So basically this orange part right here, they'll be closing, leaving the sidewalk open. Here's the alley off Santa Fe. This is Main Street right here in Santa Fe. And there's a couple of parking lots right here for a food truck.
So same thing we've done the last year or two?
Yep. Financially none, legally approved as form. It is recommended City Council approve the temporary road closure application road-292-2.
What food trucks come?
What's that?
I said, which food
What
truck
food
is
truck?
coming?
We're having face stuffers.
Nice.
Sounds healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the road closure application.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much. This is item H.3, the sound amplification waiver and fireworks display permit for the Summer Ball Showdown. So quick background, this is very similar to last year. There's some minor modifications, but the baseball tournament, Summer Ball Showdown, will be coming to Goddard on August 3rd through the 7th, Wednesday through Sunday, and will be hosted at the Goddard Genesis Baseball Diamonds. This event will have fireworks, amplified music, food, and will potentially have a head count of around 17 to 21,000 people over a 5-day period during the event. David Bosch, who is helping run the event, has asked for a waiver of the sound policy and fireworks display permit for the event similar to last year. Summer Ball Showdown link can be found in Exhibit H.4B. So this is the policy that City Council is considering, but the City will be considering waiving any amplified sound and issuance of permit for fireworks display. So this is the sound amplification. This is the fireworks per our code. So fireworks will be displayed on August 5th on a Friday between the hours of 10:30 and 11:30. There'll be no live bands this year, only pre-recorded music through speakers. That's still considered amplified. It doesn't matter if somebody's live or playing a CD. I don't play CDs anymore, excuse me. Live music or MP3. It doesn't matter. It's still considered all amplified sound if it can be heard 150 feet away through a speaker or whatnot. So they still need a sound waiver for that. Here's Field 4. The fireworks location will be in between Field 4 and the trail over here.
Does that mean I have to stop playing my CDs?
You don't have to. You have to just at the leisure of the governing body. Financially, the small publication cost for the ordinance. There will be an ordinance cost for this, and then legally approved as a form. It is recommended the City Council waive the reading of the ordinance with voice, and then approve the waiver for the sound amp ordinance and issuance of the permit for fireworks display for the Summer Ball Showdown with the voice and a roll call.
Do a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance?
I make a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then I need a motion and then a roll call for the approval of the waiver of the sound ordinance and issuance of the permit.
Make a motion to approve the waiver for the sound ordinance and the issuance of a permit for fireworks display for the Summer Ball Showdown event.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Roll call.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Leland,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmerman,
Yes.
Councilmember Proctor.
Yes.
That'll be ordinance 891.
Thank you very much. This is item H.4, sign regulation amendment. So a quick background, the sign regulations of the City of Goddard help to regulate the types and number of signs existing in the city limits. These regulations can be changed with approval of the Planning Commission and of the governing body. On March 21st, 2016, the governing body approved changing the sign regulations to include a stipulation that mandates all signs be brought up to code by December 31st, 2021. That was ordinance number 783. This code does not classify pole signs and would be required that all commercial signs be converted to monument signs by the 2021 year. On May 10th, 2021, the Planning Commission and the governing body discussed the sign regulations in detail with a joint workshop. The Community Development Director, being myself, created a draft amendment reflecting these comments, which is being presented today with some additional amendments that have arisen since then. The Planning Commission approved the changes on June 14th, 2021. At any time, feel free to stop me if you guys have any questions about anything, but we're going to go through it in part. The current regulations are found in Article 7. Article 7 sign regulations have 5 parts: sign permits, classification of signs, general standards, exemptions, district regulations. Green, and the following slides, it means that I've added it or has been added. Red has been removed and black has stayed the same. So sign permits, and it's written out here. But basically, to skip ahead, the green part, which is the subject matter of the sign, including the topic discussed or the idea message expressed, shall play no role in determining whether to grant or deny a permit. This is explicitly added and encouraged to be added by our city attorney, Robert Coginel, also Morris Lang, who I'm representing as well, because of the fact that there have been certain laws and in cases that have come up because of this about denying signs based on the content of the sign. And so we want to explicitly put that in there, that no one will be denied based on the content of the sign. And then we crossed out red, all signs lawfully existing at the time of passage of these regulations. So this was what was originally in there. All the pole signs had to be brought up to this code by December 31st of 2021. We changed it to say all signs lawfully existing at the time of passage of these regulations may remain in use, but the sign must conform to these standards upon the sale of the property. So if somebody sells the property, they have to bring it up to a monument sign. They can't keep the pole sign. But if all existing pole signs are in now, are technically grandfathered in if they still are under the same ownership. So if there's any questions or comments about that, yes.
What if it's a rental?
Well, that'd be the owner. The owner would have to sell the building.
Okay.
So typically, if there's a pole sign and somebody's renting it, the face of the sign would come off and a new face would come on.
So that's allowed.
Right, that'd be
Okay.
allowed if somebody was leasing it and it didn't turn over to no ownership. The reason this came up recently is because we did have a property that sold, and they wanted to take the face sign off and put on a new face sign, and so we said, you can't really do that yet until we can confirm that Planning Commission and City Council are both in alignment, that if this is acceptable as a leasee, that would be considered allowed, but as an owner, a new owner, you would have to take down the pole sign and put up a monument sign. So City Council feels that is correct, and that's the direction that they wanted to go in. And the Planning Commission was also in agreement with this. Per the May 10th workshop, then we would go in that direction.
So are we notifying all business owners that have pole signs of this change?
No, we haven't notified all owners of pole signs yet because we'd have to confirm first that City Council would be okay with it.
Okay.
That you guys want to
But
adopt this policy.
But once it is, we'll have it on record that we notify the current ownership so that when they go to sell, like that's a disclosure thing for the next buyer.
We can notify the property owners if at the behest of the City Council, if you guys want us to notify
We would.
current property
Yeah,
owners.
because I mean that's what I'm saying is like when they
It
go
would
through
be-
discovery on purchase of the property, like it's their job to notify, hey, this is part of what you're buying.
And it would be a certified letter, and I don't know how we would go about tracking the change in ownership or something like that. But we certainly would.
But then they can go back after the people they bought it from if
Right.
you know it's on them
That's
for
not
not
disclosed.
disclosing
Right.
the liability.
The key is going to be communicating to the existing owners that, hey, there's this change in city code. It's on you to communicate this to the buyer. And it'll be in the city code, so the buyer will have constructive notice of it as well and should be inquiring. Realtors should be communicating with their respective clients about it. And I don't know that there's going to be, we're not going to get notification when property changes hands. But if information comes to us that suggests that it has changed hands after the new ordinance goes into effect, then we could go after them and cite them for being out of conformance.
And when tenants turn over through the permit process, we would be able to verify ownership at that time as well.
Yeah, typically, and this is kind of what we ran into recently, is that somebody bought the property and they submitted a sign permit, and so we're able to say, well, you're submitting a sign permit for a face change, and we can go back and look, has there been a transfer of ownership? And so we can find that out pretty fast.
Yeah, and I guess the other question is it a change of ownership of if it's owned by an LLC and that LLC is sold to new owners, or if it's owned by a new LLC?
Yeah, it's,
LLC to LLC, regardless of owner, because it's a separate entity at that time.
Okay, so if it's an existing LLC that is sold to have a new shareholder for the LLC holding the same property, then that doesn't trigger.
I would assume that that's based upon how that is structured, but if it's a new LLC, I would think so. I'd defer to the attorneys on that one, but
Let's just assume that the property is titled in the name of ABC LLC. As long as title of the property doesn't change, even if ownership of ABC LLC changes, then I'm not sure that that would trigger
Okay.
any change.
But if ABC sold it to XYZ,
Right.
or refiled as XYZ, then that would constitute a separate legal entity.
Okay.
it'd be easier for us to find that out that way too, because the ownership title would change on the property records. So that's kind of what we'd be like, well, it did say ABC and now it says XYZ on ownership under mobile land records or Central
Okay.
County data. So that'd be the easiest way for us to say there seems to be a pretty obvious ownership change at this point. So then any legal non-conforming sign can only do minimal repairs to the face of the sign. So this is basically saying it must be replaced. If you have a pole sign and you sell it and a new property owner comes in, they have to change it to a monument sign. But if it's starting to do, if it's starting to be in disrepair, it needs to be upkept. You can't. It's minimal changes for safety reasons would be allowed. We're not going to let the sign rust and fall over and block the street. And then, of course, the black staying the same. Purpose articles to safeguard the public use of the streets and sidewalk area. So types of signs. So this came up before, and we'll kind of dive into it a little bit, but not in too much in depth. But these are the types of signs. Temporary signs. So a sign in the form of a banner, pendant, medallion, sort of advertising with or without a frame intended for a temporary display. It was of not more than 4 days at a time. It was sort of difficult to enforce that specifically at the 4-day mark because we would have to track all the temporary signs at the 4-day mark to say that. So we changed it to for a short period of time. That way it left it open to allow people to pick signs up and take them out once they had put temporary signs in place. That way we didn't have to abide strictly by the letter of the law and let people to have a little bit more flexibility to move those temporary signs. So that's just some small change we put in there. The rest of it stayed the same. This came up before, so how monument signs are classified is any sign placed upon the supported by the ground, independent of the principal or accessory building, or structures or property with little nor open space between the ground and sign and having a structure of masonry, wood, or material, similar in appearance as approved by the building official. Qualifies a monument sign, the base material must be at least 50% the length and width of the display area of the sign. So this is not in Goddard, it's not a sign that's in Goddard. There's no Lindley Church, but this came up before where this technically it's a visually appealing sign, but technically doesn't qualify as a monument sign. Since it doesn't qualify as a monument sign, it doesn't classify as any other signs, either awning, canopy, projecting, roof sign, temporary sign, or wall sign. So the question was before Planning Commission, do we want to have a new sign classification that's added to types? That's a freestanding sign, that's not a monument sign, or should all signs like this conform to the monument sign definition, meaning that this base would have to be 50% of the face of the sign itself. And so that was something that was brought before Planning Commission, and what Planning Commission said is that they want all signs to conform to the classification of what a monument sign is. So this sign would need to conform, it would not be allowed unless it met that 50%. And so that came now to City Council. If you thought that was reasonable, we would say we would move forward on that. Or if you felt that was unreasonable and this is a visually appealing sign, then we would include a different type of sign type. That would be a freestanding sign, and we would draft that and include that in the text. So that's kind of an open question for council at this point. Do you want to see more leniency for monument signs, or do you feel that all signs should conform to the monument definition?
I like the definition.
I think it's better. Like, I prefer the monument definition.
Very
Takes
good.
away any,
Ambiguity.
yeah,
Yeah,
good word.
we're slipping one past. We've
Sure.
had recent examples, right?
There are definitely those. So if you're in agreement with that, we'll just move on, just keep it as is. 102 general standards, all of the subcategories, there's 13 subcategories of 102 general standards. All of them have stayed the same except for K and L, so we're going to jump forward to K. So general standards, K1 stays the same. K2, we added exemptions to this shall be temporary signs intended for short-term use in such a manner as but not limited to garage sales, potlucks, home sales, etc. These signs shall be not more than 5 square feet and cannot exist in a public right of way for more than 2 weeks. So what we had here is this. So it's kind of at the discretion of the City Council. Technically, these would be considered prohibited under current code, but they pop up and they tend to pop up and then go away, and then pop back up and then go away. And we've collected them before in the past, and we've been collecting them again. And then the question is, when these pop up, they tend to go away in the next couple of days anyway. So we make note of them, and then we go to get them, and then they're gone. Or we make note of them, we go get them, and we pick them up, and then we charge people a fee to come collect them. So the question is, do you want to allow these to continue to exist as a temporary leniency within the right-of-way for a 2-week period, or do you feel that we should continue to uproot these as they pop up, sort of like daisies in a field?
I don't know, I think garage sales and estate sales, I mean, it's just for one weekend usually.
Typically, we see them, like I said, they come and go. It's so, granted though, that being said, as mentioned before previously, we wouldn't prohibit this. We couldn't prohibit the subject matter either. So it's not just garage sale signs, of course. If we allow, we can prohibit the size of it, and we can prohibit the duration of it, but we can't prohibit the content of it. So you could see a lot of these, and if they're less than 5 square feet, but you could see, vote for Pedro in the city right of way, and that would still be allowed because you can't discriminate against the content of the sign. You just say simply, well, we're allowing it for 2 weeks. It meets the minimum square footage, so that's allowed. And then after that, then you need to move it. So that's kind of what.
That and the state legislature allowed political signs to go anywhere at any time and any place.
There's that too. So, but specifically, these type of signs tend to come up a lot. And it's not just home sale, estate sale, garage sale. It could be
So what's
lemonade
our-
stand,
What's our
etc.
time limit on them right now?
They're not allowed in the right of way.
In the proposed time limit would be like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I think that's fine. I think it's reasonable. Otherwise, you get, some spam signs that just pop up.
We collect a lot. I mean, during the summer, they tend to pop up a lot. We can collect a lot of them. We spent time before in 2019 collecting well over 30, 50 signs. We just keep pulling them out of the right of way. Pancake sale at Lions Club, turkey, all these different types of things that get punched. Not specifically, we don't target the Lions Club pancake sale. It just happens if it shows up in the right of way, it's not allowed. If it's on private property, it's just, I think people have a hard time delineating between private property sometimes, common area, which is in the HOA, and then the city right of way. And so it's hard for them to make that distinction, so they start throwing things down, and then signs start disappearing, either from us collecting them or some other entity would start collecting them. And so that's just what we're seeing. So this policy basically makes it a little bit more lenient.
Maybe in the Goddard glance, put out a little chart. There's a plot that can be, put an X or a circle for good and an X for bad, yeah. Because I never do that, I just throw my sign where I want.
So I guess we're okay with the 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Very good. Moving on. General standards. So this came up before as well. The following provisions apply to portable signs. So generally, portable signs are prohibited. These, the blacks stay the same. Portable signs are prohibited by and large. Planning Commission, especially Doug Van Amber, who was the chair at the time, he'd been on Planning Commission for a long time, was very adamant against portable signs. That being said, he's since stepped down, but this has come up before. Exceptions to this shall be a small A-frame sign in a central business district, zone C1. And that's because of these. Now, this is not in Goddard. These are not pictures we took from Goddard, but we started to see some more of these pop up, where you see, as soon as you leave a business on the central business district between Santa Fe and on Main Street between Santa Fe and 3rd, as soon as you leave the business, you open the door and you step out on the sidewalk, technically you're in the public right of way. The code did allow for wall signs and awning signs. They said these were exempt, but portable signs were not exempt. And so these signs started to pop up on occasion. And the question was, is City Council okay with seeing specifically A-frame signs specifically in the central business district, only in zone C1 between Santa Fe on Main Street, Santa Fe and 3rd?
I don't know, I think if it helps promote business, I don't know how long they leave them out there, but.
I didn't put a stipulation in there specifically because I wanted to know if you had any thoughts on that. They're marketing a business, for example, and they usually bring it in at night and then it comes back out. If you felt that it was unreasonable, we could obviously keep it as is, and we would simply flag it and say you can't have your A-frame on Main Street.
I don't have a problem with a sign like that. I mean, they're probably going to take it in overnight. Otherwise, some hungry kids are going to snag it. I think it's funny, but
It's possible.
Yeah. Our sidewalks are pretty deep too, so
yeah.
I think they're fine.
All right, so we'll allow.
Let me go that one, okay. Amortization of signs. So this is old text that said basically any portable sign that was legal in existence at effective date, regulation shall be allowed to remain at the same location until December 31st of 2005. So this text is outdated. So I'm just asking it to be removed. These are exemptions, so the following signs shall be exempt from the regulations. We added temporary signs that serve to market a new business or residential development for a short period of time and are intended to be removed once the new business or residential development has been fully erected. All such signs shall be removed upon the sale of the last lot in the development or requiring a certificate of occupancy for a commercial building, industrial, or multifamily building. Entry signs for residential subdivisions also shall be exempt. So this came up because of these. St. Andrew's 4th edition was finalized. The sign was still up. And so the question was, is it a permanent sign or is it a temporary sign? And so in this regulation, we're saying we will allow you to put up this type of marketing sign. It's exempt from the regulation, so you can put up a sign to market as large as you like. However, after the last lot is sold, you have to pull it down. And so that's kind of what we've seen before. We've required variances on almost all of our marketing signs for subdivisions because we haven't really found where they fall in the code. And so we simply say, if you're exceeding 180 square feet or something along those lines, then we've required a variance for that. We've required a variance for Arbor Creek, for Cloverleaf. This one fits, not this one, but Cloverleaf and other ones, they were required to pull a variance. And so we've seen that they want to market as large as they can, but then at the end of the day, once all the lots are sold, we want it to come down. And so this would allow for that. And then this is the entry sign. It doesn't really have a classification, and so we thought that aesthetically, if we allow for that design to be implemented by the developer at the developer's choice, to say you have free artistic reign to design the entry sign for your subdivision as long as it's considered tasteful, which generally you see it's generally tasteful. But. So a marketing sign, entry sign, and that's what these are. Thoughts on that?
Seems reasonable, I like it.
This helps us avoid variances, and this allows for flexibility of design for the marketing of the subdivision.
And we won't get into the situation where we had with like St. Andrews that had the same sign and been up behind the monument sign. And we had no real teeth to get it to be removed.
So now we'll say you have to remove it.
Took an artist.
Yeah, it did.
Some phone calls, yeah. So 104 is districts, and so it defines different districts. So we added R4, zoning classification, RUI. Those were passed back in 2021. So now we're just simply adding them. R4 is going to fit right into the residential district. So R4 sign regulations for an R4 zoning classification will stay the same. RUI was defined to be very broad. So we left it wide open to say that there's no limitations for heights, gross surface area, required setbacks for an RUI district when it comes to sign regulations. And right now, RUI is not applied to any lots, but it's intended to be applied for larger lots that are in the county when we annex them to help them comply with being acclimated into the city and urban style. I noticed that awning, canopy, and marquee signs were defined, but they weren't included in the C1 Central Business District, so I added them. I didn't really see a reason why they wouldn't be there. There might have been a reason, but I couldn't really determine why. Either it might have been a typo and it was just left out, or there might have been a reason for that. I couldn't see a real logical reason why awning, canopy, or marquee sign was not allowed in that particular district. So if you felt that that shouldn't be there, we can keep it as is and not allow awning, canopy, or marquee signs in the Central Business District.
Usually it's just sort of on the fringe anyway, isn't it?
Well, it depends on where that sign is posted. There's some regulations about where you can't have it overhanging where somebody would run into it, but generally what we see is that for an awning or a canopy sign, they're just going to be either above, or that's actually just going to be print, or they'll have grommets that are actually just attached to the awning itself. We don't have a lot of awnings on Main Street right now. There's only a couple, but I haven't seen any signs actually on them. General Business District, I didn't see projecting signs or awning, canopy, or marquee signs in that one either, so I added that to that. Zoning classification as an allowable sign type. Generally, the general business district, generally, that's redundant, sorry, generally speaking, the general business district tends to be a little bit wider open. You allow for a wider flexibility of sign types, but if you want, we can keep it as is and keep those out.
Now,
Is that projecting sign, or a projecting one, is that the one that comes out of the wall?
That's
and
right.
Hangs over the sidewalk?
Yeah, it hangs out a bit.
see those on like hotels and.
Yeah, we see them quite often on site. So larger buildings typically, they tend to project out.
Do you have anything in there outlawing neon signs anymore?
I haven't added outline neon signs or illuminated signs. We'd have to go back.
Is there anything in our?
Well, we have a luminosity
Right.
code that would address that.
There's a certain amount. It can't be. It's basically the wattage and the type of illumination. There's a prohibited to how it's illuminated. That's it. Small publication cost and legally approved as the form. And once again, it would require waiving the reading of the ordinance and then approve the ordinance amending the sign regulations outlining exhibit H.5, which is actually H.4 now, with a voice and a roll call, similar to the last ordinance.
Have a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance?
To make a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance?
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Take a
Roll
motion
call.
to approve the amending of the sign regulations outlined in exhibit H5A.
So motion.
Second.
Second. Roll call,
Councilmember Leland,
Yes.
Mayor Zimmerman,
yes.
Councilmember Proctor,
Yes.
and it will be ordinance 892.
Thank you very much. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for getting that across the goal line, Micah.
Yeah, no problem.
Resolution declaring the need to acquire private property for a public purpose. The city council's received numerous public comments from citizenry and our public boards in the need for a new community center and library. There have been several studies and market research that has identified the need to acquire and the most ideal location for acquiring for this public purpose. The property owners have been contacted regarding the purchase of the ground, however, that has not been fruitful. The resolution declares it necessary to acquire private property for public purpose. The city engineer would then be directed to survey the properties and create a legal description of the land or interest, and then to present that to the city clerk for filing. And at this point now, I'll turn it over to our city attorney, Ryan Peck, who authored the resolution and can answer any questions that you have. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't specifically cite what properties we're surveying at that time, and that's, as we said, that's intentional, as the this is essentially a kickoff, and we've had individuals front run the city once that information's public on potential offerings. So I'll turn it over to Ryan for any additional comments.
This is just the first step to move forward in the process to try and acquire the couple parcels that we've been talking about as a possibility for the community center. And so what'll happen is Harlan will hire a surveyor to go out and obtain surveys, legal descriptions of the lands to be acquired, and then we will come back before you for further authorization to actually move forward with the eminent domain and authorize me to file lawsuits to condemn the property.
Do the landowners have to be aware of the survey?
No. No, they will get notification though, once you authorize moving forward with the actual filing of the eminent domain actions. It's just like a lawsuit. I file it over in Sedgwick County at the courthouse. serve them as interested parties, as defendants. They have the opportunity to answer and come forward and defend it. There aren't a lot of defenses to eminent domain proceedings, but it's predominantly a fight over what's the value, the fair market value of the land, of the taking. So this is just the first step in what will be a multi-step process. So.
Okay, any questions about this? Okay, we need to adopt the resolution, right?
Yes,
Would I motion to adopt the resolution as presented?
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
A second, any other discussion? All in favor, aye? Motion carries.
Item I is the administrator's report. You can see Starbond progress. There's been some flashing on the end with some of the lower levels also, seeing some of that addressed. Then no real progress, as you can see. You can even see some of the metal studs in the image here on the fourth and third floors. And as you know, hotels are traditionally, once everything's framed, you'll see the construction occur from top to bottom, so that way as the construction process is underway, they're not damaging the lower floors as they're building and carrying on and destroying and carrying out remnant pieces and whatnot. You can see good progress on the second set of fields. Arbor Creek, see some homes going in on phase 2, and you'll see progress there. There's the playground for the addition pool and the pickleball courts. Elk Ridge, just continued progress on the build outs. Cloverleaf continues. You can see phase 3 starting there. Rustic Creek, you can see progress over the last meeting where now we have framing where some of the foundations are. You'll see that there's 2 new foundations and footings for a new home as well. Duplexes, looks like some footings have been framed or formed. And then you can see the Scooters Coffee should be near full completion and open in short order. Just want to kind of go over the budget calendar coming up. The next council meeting, we'll go over the property taxes. At that time, if the council accepts staff recommendation to exceed the revenue neutral rate, you'll then essentially direct publication of notice of that. If we want to collect any new property tax from all of this construction, we will have to exceed the revenue neutral rate. So by the 20th, we would have to notify the clerk, which we would do the following day after council adoption. And then on August 10th through the September 10th, we're required to publish that notice of public hearing, and it has to be at least 10 days before the hearing date, because on August 10th, the city clerk then mails every property owner in the city a statement saying that you're raising the revenue neutral rate. Doesn't quite sound that simple, but they're essentially sending out this notice of public hearing, making it sound like you're raising taxes, when in reality, you're capturing the new growth. But we'll meet with folks who want to discuss that. And then on August 22nd, we'll conduct the budget hearing for both the revenue neutral rate, which will require a roll call, and then adoption of the budget through a separate motion. Other items coming up, we'll have the service contract for IT, National Night Out fireworks approval. We'll have a linear park shade structure purchase, street RFP, the budget, chamber after action review, and a special use permit for a new business coming into town, Bow Wow Camp. In August, we'll be looking at the quarterly reports, the equity benefit fee discussion, municipal code cleanup, and obviously the budget hearing and revenue neutral hearings. That concludes my report. If there aren't any questions from myself or anyone else of staff. Thank you.
All right, we have governing body comments. Sarah?
I don't have anything.
I'd like to thank our police force for keeping things cool at the pool. And also the Lions Club and the city partnership on the fireworks show. That was really spectacular. So, well done, everybody.
Well, I really don't have anything at this point, so I guess we'll make a motion to go into an executive session, I believe. Do we have an executive? There's nothing on there? If that's an executive session, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, aye.
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 Adjourn.